70% of prisoners can't read. A vast number of those young people arrested post-riots, we know exactly where they came from. We know exactly which schools they went to. We know exactly what their educational outcomes were. And they are largely disastrous. There will be no jobs at all for those who can't read and those who can't get a basic 5 GCSEs, including English and Maths, and ironing board studies does not count. And that is the challenge for Britain and for Bromsgrove. And the third and last example, because it takes me off rewinding, off pausing, and on to fast forwarding. The third and last example was a KPMG senior partner called Michael Farr, in charge of London, who went to a school and talked to a head. And the head said, "Oh, Miss Seeing's Believing too, it's been lovely to talk with you. Thank you so much for coming. It's quite lonely, you know, being a head teacher." And the KPMG senior partner said, "It's very lonely being a KPMG senior partner." And she said, "I don't suppose I could see you again." He thought his time had come. He said, "Of course, but why?" And she said, "Because, you see, it's lonely being a leader. And it's really helpful to talk with other leaders about what they do and how they do it." So, clever old Michael Farr, challenging man, but he went back to KPMG and he said, "Right, come on, we need to get together 30 people with some experience of leadership to twin up with 30 head teachers in London." And that they did. And amazingly, we rolled that out as a great programme from the business and community. Until the end, there were 7,000 business leaders twinned with 7,000 head teachers across the UK. And in the end, we asked 200 of them or something or other to come and have tea at Highgrove and to share experience with Prince Wales as the president of the business and community about what all this was about. And Prince and I worked together for a very long time, so at the end of the reception, he said to me, "Well, that's rather good, Jim. I enjoyed that. A lot of anecdotal chat." I said, "Yes, sir, very good stuff." He said, "Has anybody actually done a proper evaluation as to whether this is of the least benefit to the head teachers?" I said, "I'm perfectly prepared to believe that it's dramatically improved the quality of conversation in North London dinner parties, but what actually has it done for the heads?" I said, "It's a frightfully good point, so we'd better go and have a look." The following morning, I happened to be on an education leadership team with a lot of other swanky business leaders like John Rose and Rolls-Royce and Tom Gloser of Reuters and lovely Ian Davis of McKinsey. And I said, "I wonder if we could do an evaluation of this programme." And everybody's eyes swung to Paul McKinsey. And poor Ian Davis saw that he wasn't going to be able to get out of this. So he said rather briskly, "OK, we'll do the evaluation. But we won't just say, is this programme any good? We'll say to 50 head teachers in London," this was in 2002, "we'll say, what's your biggest problem? And do you think there's anything the business world could do about it?" And back came the McKinsey review, and it said, actually, 50 head teachers in London are absolutely clear that their biggest problem is they've got no teachers. And if the Australians went home, they would have to run up the flag and give up, because we are entirely dependent on Australian, and occasionally South Africans, on their way around the world. There is nobody that will come and teach in these schools, in the maths and the English and the science departments. And I'd seen in America a programme called Teach for America years before, and wondered whether you could possibly do the same thing in Britain. And as a result of that McKinsey review and incredible hard work and support from so many people, this year, in the graduate yearbook, which shows which are the most attractive careers that graduates want to go into from the best universities in the country. I can report to you that this year, number 7, higher than Goldman Sachs, higher than the bankers, number 7 is a program called Teach First, which actually next year will be the largest graduate recruiter in Britain. Because with luck, a fair wind and your support, we will get 1,000 graduates to come and teach in the toughest, most problematical, most deprived, most difficult schools in the country. And they will do that. Many of them will come just for 2 years, like Dan here, who's in charge of the work in West Midlands, who taught just for 2 years in Wembley High with 10 others working together in maths, the English and science departments. And the lift-off in that particular Wembley High School, under an amazing and very, very determined head called Jill, the lift-off there has actually shown that they have now got themselves to 80% A to C's, from 23% only 5 years ago. So anybody who says to me the world can't be changed, that we can't raise the game in education, I believe that that is not the case. But it takes a village to raise a child. It takes connected people to help make the difference. So what, as I finish now, fast forward? We've done the rewind, we've done the pause. What's the fast forward for Bromsgrovians? How do you achieve great schools like Bromsgrove, more widely? Of course, got the brand out in Thailand, which is marvellous. But how do we do it in Britain? Well, it seems to me that the most important single thing Bromsgrove can do is to concentrate on the talent and ability and results that it seeks to achieve from its own cohort. Fantastic number going through that school. And real opportunity to change so many places by what those Bromsgrovians decide to take their talent and ability on to do. So let's firstly build on the excellence of Bromsgrove and the courage, loyalty and resilience it builds in its pupils. Secondly, let's make sure we really are developing what Digby talked about, a sense of being fortunate and wanting to help those less fortunate. Because those to whom much has been given, much is expected. And that, I suspect, is one of the most important things one can put into this new generation and reawaken in ourselves. Even if we are rather gloomy about how bad the pension looks, even if we are rather sad about the imminent collapse of the euro, actually we're fortunate in comparison to those so frequently that one hears too much about. So how do we do some of that? Well, I'm pretty sure that we build on the great success you've already got going on the bursaries through the foundation. There was a gasp, actually, when the head said, we got $1 million, and $1 million is being spent on bringing to this school those who could not possibly be able to get here without that sort of financial support. And therefore those who believe that actually they could direct debit a bit, think about a will, do a bit of a legacy. I'm always very interested in talking to 90-year-olds at these sorts of gatherings. What's that will look like at this moment? What could it look like? 10% of your legacies now, 10% of your estate, if you leave it to a charitable operation, that 10% comes off the inheritance tax. That is a very clever new move. Anybody who hasn't looked at their will lately, please do so. But we don't need it. Well, we do need it in the long run, but we also need it now. So what more could we be doing if we're really going to grow that endowment by 500,000 a year in order to get to 2016 to build those numbers? But I suppose for all of us, we can also recognise, as Stuart Toe has done, that evil takes place because men of goodwill do nothing. That in fact, as chairman of Alexandra High, school not a million miles away from Bromsgrove, you, Stuart, have presided over a situation in which a school was achieving 22% A to C's 3 years ago, then 38%, then 40%, and this year 50%. Well, to double the numbers of kids who are actually going to have a chance in society in 3 years, as a result of putting a performance drive and support behind that school, seems to me to be something that could be replicated with other people in this room who have that ability, that drive, that determination. But if you say, no, I'm not going to chair the governors, but those who recently left Bromsgrove, what are we doing back in the school, in the companies and the organisations that we work for, to see whether there aren't some things that we could do together? That we could start a breakfast club in the local primary. We could be the mentor. We could go and work with the Prince's Trust and offer some opportunities to kids who need a break. We could get going on running the Duke of Edinburgh, as we learned how to do here. We could recognise, if you talk to the head teachers, and I've talked to 20 of them, who are in the riot areas in August, and you say to them, what's the single biggest thing which would help? They say, more uniformed youth organisations. There's not enough for kids to do between 4 to 8. You've got a fantastic CCF. How many more could we be starting in the West Midlands if we really got going on? Talking to Nick Parker in charge of the Army the other day, he thinks that this is one of the most important things that the Army and those who've been through the Army can now do. The Scouts have got a waiting list of 80,000 kids waiting to join the Scouts. What's the limiting factor? They can't get any adult team leaders. Now that's part because of a lot of nonsense about CRB checks, but it's also because we don't any longer do enough to make those things happen. And thirdly, in that whole group, if we're in the world of work, what do we do? Of course, to support the Bromsgrove pupils on the world of work. I'm not terribly worried, to be honest, about Bromsgrove's ability to get work experience places. I see queues of those. Oh, my goddaughter, oh, my godson, oh, my very nice niece. All of them in. Absolutely fine. But for every godson, every niece you haul into a well-orchestrated company on work experience, I'd like you to haul 2 who come from communities who are disconnected, don't know anybody in work, and might just about be managing to get a bit of a weekend job in the local market. So it seems to me that all of those things, plus encouraging anybody you can from Bromsgrove who's going to come through the Teach First programme, which I believe can make a real difference. I think there are a lot of things that actually Bromsgrove, who's achieved so much, can do. Of course, to really recognise that when we're lying on our deathbed looking back over our lives, the 90-year-olds, it won't be all that long, front row, it'll be quite some time. When we're lying on our deathbeds thinking, rewinding our lives, pausing, wondering what we've achieved in the last 30 years, there's Dick Noakes telling me that actually he could do more. Well, I'm thrilled, he's doing a lot for the foundation, and I've got several thoughts of things I want him to do. Retirement is just not an option. We've never needed talent, creativity, engineering, energy and drive. And those who make up the Bromsgrove group have so much to give to their own school and to the wider world. So thank you very much indeed for inviting me.